Hola, Olga.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay. Busy days.
Yeah, I'm sure very busy. I wanted to talk about, in particular, why you are busy. I mean, you have been reporting on the Middle East for decades. So you have been following what's happening in Gaza very closely. In the last few days, kind of, I'm not sure if we can say surprisingly, but a lot of the countries that have been aiding and abetting the genocide in Gaza, that have been covering up for Israel in terms of diplomacy, politics, that have been sending weapons to Israel over the last few days, have suddenly done a huge U-turn. So, for example, you've got the UK, France, and Canada that have threatened Israel with sanctions. You got the European Union that says that it will re-examine the EU-Israel Association Trade Agreement. And yesterday, the Spanish Parliament voted, I mean, it was a close vote, right? 176 to 171. But they voted to ban arms sales to Israel.
Mhm.
How do you interpret this?
I was thinking before the first hour in the morning that it's like if Europe looked at itself in the mirror for the first time last Saturday during Eurovision, I mean, we have 19 months have passed since Israel began its current wave of crimes against Palestinian population. And in truth, we know that we are talking about years, even decades of crimes, illegal occupation and segregation. And throughout all this time, Europe has been normalizing Israel's massacres in Gaza and its blockade on humanitarian aid. So the question last Saturday was, imagine we are in the future and there is sanity in the future. The question would be, what was Europe doing while Israel was killing children in Gaza and singing and performing at Eurovision? So it's like we have seen this mirror for the first time. European governments have decided to look at them, at the mirror. And I think this is a question that our sons and daughters will ask us one day. And the answer will be a painful one, is a painful one. European governments chose to look away, at least until now. They have been helping normalizing these crimes by maintaining arms deals, trade agreements, diplomatic ties with Israel, as if nothing was happening in Gaza and in the West Bank. It's like they treated the massacres as a background noise. They offered political cover, business opportunities, instead of using their influence to stop the crimes. They kept pretending everything was normal. So we don't have all the information now to say why in this moment, why now, and why not before. But we can say these first steps are not enough, and for the moment are only words. So we have to keep forcing, we have to keep denouncing these crimes, because for the moment, this coordinated answer is for the moment only words.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to focus a bit more because you are Spanish on the vote at the Spanish Parliament yesterday. So again, it's a non-binding vote, but still, the Parliament at a very close margin. So again, 176 to 171 voted for an arms embargo to Israel. So what does it mean in terms of the political, in terms of politicals here in Spain, but practically, what does it also mean? Or is it only, again, empty words?
It's a first step. It's a first step toward a full arms embargo to Israel, on Israel. If it's approved, it would ban all exports, imports, and also transfers of weapons, which have continued during these 19 months of genocide in Gaza. The proposal was brought by more than 500 social organizations here in Spain. And now, what is going on now? The bill enters a process that could take a long time. Even it could be frozen or even not approved, we'll see. And meanwhile, the crimes are still happening in Gaza. So that is why these organizations are asking for a full embargo and are calling the government for an urgent and quick government decree that could be approved immediately tomorrow by the government if the government would want. So the question that these organizations are making today is, what is stopping the government? This is the question that the social organizations are asking today, because they describe this vote as an important first step, but it's not an urgent enough response to the genocide against the Palestinian people at this moment. So we'll see. These organizations, they are saying that they will keep the pressure to become this vote in a real law that can impose an embargo, a total embargo.
Thanks, Olga. I wanted to continue on the Spanish government, because the Spanish government, from the outside, has been hailed, has been seen as one of the best, in a way, governments when it comes to dealing with the genocide. The Spanish government has announced repeatedly that it had stopped, sending weapons to Israel. But recently, some reports and some research has showed that actually weapons have not stopped and trade hasn't stopped, and quite the contrary. So in a way, who is telling the truth? Is it the government or the journalists and the researchers that have digged into this?
The government, there is a contradiction, because if you look at the platform of the state, of Spanish state, you can find all these contracts. I mean, it's not something which is secret. They are there. The contracts that, for more than 40 contracts that the Spanish government has bought during these 19 months to Israeli companies or subsidiaries. And this has been happening until now. And you can go to this website and you can see them. Transits is more difficult to know them, because you have to combine different data, different information, but we have important organizations as International Progressive, as Centre de las here in Spain, as a Palestinian Youth Movement, that have discovered some transits during these months, with stops in some Spanish ports, with ships that are bringing weapons from United States to Israel. Spain is in the middle, so of course Spain could be and has been a territory where ships have stopped. And there have been some exports too. Not too much, not too many in the last months, but some of them. And for example, in 2023, November, December, and 2024, January, February, March, those exports were still going from Spain to Israel. But even this January of this year, there was a tiny export from Spain to Israel. So there are still arms trade between Spain and Israel until today. This has been crazy conversation, because government has been saying different things depending on the week. For example, 2 weeks ago, the foreign minister said there was no trade, arms trade. After that, he said, or kind of confessed, that there were still bots. I mean, Spain was buying weapons. After that, the president of the government, Pedro Sánchez, said that Spain was buying weapons to Israel. In fact, there is a contract, for example. Spain has bought this weapon to this state company, Israeli state company, Rafael. And after that, Pedro Sánchez last week said Spain is not having arms trade with Israel. So they have been saying different things, but the reality, you can see it at the website related to the weapons that Spain has been buying to Israeli companies. You can see it because it's public, so we are not lying at it.
I also wanted to ask you, because you are very experienced in reporting from conflict zones, from war zones. I mean, you were reporting over the last years in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon. You have seen war. You have been on the front lines often. And as a journalist, did you ever expect to experience? I mean, you haven't experienced it, obviously, because journalists are forbidden to go to Gaza. But did you ever expect to live through something like Gaza in the 21st century?
No. I mean, I was working in Gaza many years ago as a journalist in 2004, 2006. And, it was already a horrible situation with killings, blockade of aid. We already knew that Israel was willing to extend its occupation to annex more territory with crimes, with ethnic cleansing. When this started, I said in some interviews that if the international community didn't act, Israel could kill thousands or tens of thousands of Palestinians and occupy Gaza forever. And some people thought that I was crazy. But even saying that, I couldn't imagine this. I couldn't imagine that Europe was going to normalize these crimes as it has done until now. I couldn't imagine this genocide treated as normal. I mean, Europe seems blind and indifferent, as if what's happening isn't real, like it's just a game with no consequences. We are living this.
And do you think, in a way, that journalists, I mean, at least Western journalists, have failed in their duty to report on Gaza, but also in some way have helped manufacture consent for the genocide in Gaza? And again, I'm not focusing on independent journalists. I'm focusing on like the mainstream media.
Yeah, of course. That is one of the key aspects of all of this. With a different journalism, I think things would have been different too. I mean, journalism must report the facts always from a human rights perspective and knowing international law. And I know this very well because I have been witnessing crimes and injustice in a lot of places. And that defines me. So we see that what is called journalism, but often isn't journalism, frequently presents viewpoints that challenge human rights. It's like it has become normal to debate whether human rights are valid or not. I mean, this is what we are living. And these kinds of debates are common in many media outlets and parliaments with a lot of racism. So reporting and journalism is a fundamental, it's a key of free and democratic societies. And if we have a society poorly informed, this society is going to be easily manipulated. And we are seeing that. That is why having a free, a committed, and a brave press is so important. But it's very difficult. Although we have been seeing that there are some reporters, journalists who are doing a great job, but it's very difficult to break this wall of propaganda and this wall of even fear. I think there is disinformation, there is propaganda, and there is fear too.
You mentioned something that I want to pick up on. You said like journalists should report the facts, but what we hear often, again from the mainstream media, like the BBC, for example, is that journalists should be impartials. But there is a big difference, right, in being impartials and reporting the facts. Don't you think?
Of course, yeah. This is a tricky thing. I mean, there is no neutral journalism. I mean, every piece of journalism takes a position. What is the difference? The difference is that when it takes the side of the official narrative, when it conveys the discourse of those in power, it seems neutral. But when it stands up for the oppressed, for the people marginalized, for the weakest, and speaks out against the injustices and oppression from above, it is targeted and even criminalized. And we have been living that because I am a journalist that sometimes has been defined as someone who takes a position in the world. And of course, and I am proud of it. And there are a lot of journalists who do that, even all the difficult way, because it is the difficult way. The easy life is the other one, is the other journalist. So journalism should exist to make the world better, to fight against crimes, not to promote inequality, hatred, or arrogance.
Why do you think Israel is killing so many of them, of journalists in Gaza? Until now, it's at least 200 journalists from Gaza have died. Why do you think they're killing them? I mean, they're forbidding, international journalists to be in Gaza, and they're killing the journalists in Gaza itself.
Because they are telling what is going on. They are telling what is happening. Because they are our eyes. They are witnessing the crimes and showing the crimes to the world. Although Israel doesn't want them to do that. We are forbidden. We cannot enter there, the international press. This is without any precedent. Sometimes I wonder how things would be if well-known Western journalists were there in Gaza. Probably their reports would have had an impact on governments, on societies. Probably Israel would have even killed them because Israel is bombing everywhere. And we have here this racism against Palestinian people. So when Palestinians tell their own story, when they are telling us what's going on in Gaza, it doesn't have the same impact in this racist West. So their work is very important. We must thank them. We must denounce these killings, and we must thank because they have been able to break the information wall that Israel wanted to impose to the world. So thanks to them, we are seeing these crimes. At the same time, the crimes are happening. But even this is not enough for Europe and United States and for the international community to react.
Thanks, Olga. I wanted to end with a question of what you've told me is very interesting. You know, the fact that the Spanish government, in a way, would lie and then say, actually, we've lied, but not really, shows one thing. They are very uncomfortable, right? And in my opinion, they are uncomfortable because of the mobilization of the people, because of the social movements, because of the demonstrations in the streets. How important do you think it is for the people, you know, independent journalists, but also anyone, to continue the mobilization to push governments to actually take actions?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Mobilization is essential. Over these months, we have built international networks. There are a lot of decent people in many places doing what they can do. And a lot of people that understand that no one will be able to say in the future that they didn't know. If we see small steps in Europe, for example, this first step by the Spanish government, it's because there is mobilization and because polls show that many people understand here in Spain and in other countries that the scale of these crimes, of this genocide, and its consequences. Because the other day, Angela Davis was saying that Palestine is at the center of the world and is the center of the world. Palestine shapes new dynamics, normalizes oppression, the law of the strongest. So we have to fight against that, because today is Palestine, tomorrow can happen the same in other place, and Palestine is defines our present, defines our time. So many good people everywhere know there is always something to do, and they are trying to do it, speaking out, using words, organizing, denouncing. And meanwhile, too many governments are saying that there is nothing to be done. There is nothing to do. I mean, I don't know if this is the best word, but my first language is Spanish. So let me say that is bullshit. Of course, there are measures and there are things that can be taken and done, but almost none have been applied to put real pressure. So we have to be mobilized. We have to defend international law, to defend human rights, to defend Palestinian people, because our future is going to be defined by Palestinian future, but by their future too. So all of us are Palestinian today.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect ending. And yes, all of us are Palestinians, because I really think that Palestine exposes, in a way, everything that is wrong with in this world that we're living in. Profit before people, the arms trade, colonization, apartheid, genocide. But as you said, Palestine could also be the key to something very different, to a different future. And the way people have constantly, over the last 18, 19 months, been on the streets, done direct actions, done cultural actions, is a testament, in a way, is a testimony, and to the will of the people, And so, yeah, again, muchas gracias, Olga.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.